issue that where Donald Trump made those comments, and the issue we're talking about is largely in 2016. The other major thing that you have to understand is that this was, by all accounts, a counterintelligence investigation. That is far different than a criminal probe. Attorney General Sessions should have never recused himself. You don't need to recuse yourself from a counterintelligence investigation, so he was fundamentally wrong when he made that. That's what created the special counsel. And number two, they should have informed Donald Trump himself. We as a country, we protect our presidential candidates. We give them Secret Service protection. We give them CIA briefings daily, even before they become the president. And if there was a counterintelligence operation, they should have informed Donald Trump along the way, even when he was the president-elect. They had a duty and an obligation, and protocol would say that they would actually give him a briefing, but evidently they didn't. Why did they break protocol yet again?
Yeah, I get it. I don't know the answer yet. My suggestion to Alan Dershowitz is that perhaps the FBI was looking for something. They could not find it. Therefore, they kept looking, and perhaps that's why they did not pass on the word. Does that logic fly with you, possibly?
Absolutely does not. There is the Gang of Eight, which there is an obligation for counterintelligence operations to be briefed. You have a president-elect in Donald Trump, and as president, again, counterintelligence operations are briefed to the president. Why did they not do that? It seems really mystifying, and that's why, until they actually get and see these documents, people like John Ratcliffe and Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy will never really fully get that answer. But we saw what they did to Hillary Clinton. They wagged out a protocol in the Hillary Clinton investigation, and on Donald Trump, they're pretty aggressive in inserting spies into this campaign, and I don't think that final determination is there yet, Bill.
Would you sit for an interview now? Trey Gowdy suggests that, based on what he saw, go ahead and talk to Mueller. Alan Dershowitz says, no, do not do that. That's a bad attorney's advice. And he would not sit down. Quickly answer that, and I'll ask you about Jeff Sessions.
I think there'll be a little bit of both, because I think Donald Trump, in his gut, really does want to talk to these people, but his legal team's going to have to set up the parameters for such a discussion. I think he will do it.
You think he will?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think he's different than everybody else in the world. He does things differently, and he'll do it.
On the Jeff Sessions tweets, there were 3 of them. Here's the third one. He's quoting Trey Gowdy. There were lots of really good lawyers in the country. He could have picked somebody else, end quote, and I wish I did. Jeff Sessions, has he got a target back on him again or not?
Jeff Sessions, as the Attorney General, is there in name only. He's absolutely worthless. The sooner the president names a new Attorney General, the better. He should never have recused himself. He didn't need to in a counterintelligence operation. And we have major systemic problems at the FBI, and he's nowhere on document production, nowhere on these things. I mean, you got Rod Rosenstein running the place. It's time to get rid of Jeff Sessions. A long time ago.
Jason Chaffetz, thank you for your time today. We'll see you again real soon. Thanks,
Bill.
The 9/11 Memorial in New York is evolving to include an ongoing health crisis. A new design concept unveiled today recognizes all of those who are suffering or who have died from World Trade Center toxins. It's estimated that more than 400,000 people were exposed. Rick Leventhal's live from the memorial. Rick, what is the scene there?
Sandra, the dedication ceremony just wrapping up behind me. They're calling this an evolution of the 9/11 Memorial, a redesign of the southwest corner of this 8-acre plaza, a dedicated space honoring the tens of thousands of people who are sick, many of whom died from exposure to 9/11 toxins. And of course, many of those were first responders who spent weeks or months working tirelessly on the pile of rubble where the Twin Towers once stood, demonstrating courage and bravery, sacrificing their own health in a search for victims of that terror attack. The design includes a pathway where the primary ramp was located during rescue and recovery. It's now part of a grassy area that's called the Memorial Glade next to the survivor tree, and the new walk will be flanked by large stones pointing skyward, which the architect says will be worn but not beaten, symbolizing strength and determination through adversity.
This dedicated space will remind all who come here how the best of our human nature responded to the worst, how human dignity triumphed over human depravity. It will express our collective, undiminished gratitude for their service.
Today is the 16th anniversary of the end of the rescue and recovery operations. They're not sure when this redesign will be finished, but they say they just want to get it right, Sandra.
Rick, something many people may not really realize is just how many people have died after 9/11.
Yeah, of course, nearly 3,000 died on that day. We don't have a firm number on the number who died since then, but it is staggering, said to be twice as many, perhaps more. Hundreds of thousands are believed to have been exposed to the contaminated air. 77,000 have signed up for the World Trade Center health program. 39,000 of those have at least one condition, and more than 6,000 have cancer. Just last Saturday, the FBI special agent in charge of the Atlanta field office, David LaValle, died from complications from contaminants he was exposed to here at Ground Zero. He was based in New York City at the time. He spent several weeks at the site, and the FBI says he was one of many who died in the line of duty because of his exposure to that toxic air here at Ground Zero. And now there will be a memorial dedicated to him and the many others who served here so tirelessly, Sandra.
Rick Leventhal in Lower Manhattan for us. Thank you.
Wow. Memories continue. If you come to New York, make sure you make a stop there in Lower Manhattan.
Worth your time.
Won't forget it. The White House giving an update on the First Lady, Melania Trump, how she's doing after her medical procedure. We've got that for you in a moment, Sandra.
Plus, should Republicans campaign on border security? Why President Trump thinks it will be a winning issue for his party come November.
If you want your communities to be safe, if you want your schools to be safe, if you want your country to be safe, then you must go out and get the Democrats the hell out of office, because there's no common sense.
Learn more at VikingCruises.com.
So the White House putting out an update on the First Lady, Melania Trump, saying that she is doing well after a successful kidney procedure. The administration says she's been getting back to work, meeting with staffers and going over initiatives. And many have been wondering about the First Lady's condition. It's been more than 2 weeks since she made a public appearance, so maybe we'll see her in public sometime very soon.
Glad to hear.
Yes, indeed. Good news there from the First Lady. Nice.
The fact is, the Democrats are lousy politicians. They're lousy on policy. I happen to think them allowing open borders, which we don't allow anyway, but they make it very difficult. But them allowing open borders, that's a good issue for us.
President Trump in Nashville last night suggesting that border security, something Republicans should run on come November. Joining me now, Republican Congressman from Arizona, David Schweikert. He serves on the House Ways and Means Committee. He joins us now. Congressman, thanks for your time this morning. So
Good morning.
Good morning. Is that a winning issue for your party?
I think it's a winning issue, but I also think it's important, particularly those of us from a border state, trying to explain there's a lot to it. It's border security, it's border technology, it's stopping nefarious things and human exploitation coming across that border. But you also got to get the Democrats to step up and help us fix this immigration system.
Do you think is that realistic, Congressman?
I don't think you have a choice. You have to pursue it, because you can't give a speech about how you want a solution for DACA and then not fix the very problem that creates that.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen that so far. But this is something the president hit hard on last night. He went further. Let's listen.
Voted against legislation to remove these criminal aliens. They voted against Kate's Law. Democrats have opposed every common sense measure necessary to stop this horrendous scourge of crime, to dismantle MS-13, and to stop illegal immigration.
Well, that was one of multiple times last night that the president blasted Democrats on immigration. So is this the only way to stop them?
I'm going to make the argument that the president is taking us on the right track from understanding you got to do the border security. But for many of us, we also need to fix the immigration system, because wouldn't it be amazingly cruel to say we're going to come up with a DACA solution, but we're going to do it again in 10 years? The holy grail is moving away from this immigration system we have today, where today's immigrants get to choose the next generation, instead of moving to a talent-based system like the rest of the world uses.
Well, how to pay for all of this is a completely different subject, as you know.
Yeah.
And the president took that on last night and said it's going to be Mexico and they're going to enjoy it. Well, Mexico responded, Congressman. Enrique Peña Nieto, the president, tweeted this out. President real Donald Trump, no, Mexico will never pay for a wall. Not now, not ever. Sincerely, Mexico, all of us.
Well, remember, it's election time in Mexico right now. So a lot of the Mexican presidential race is actually reacting to our president. So it's going to be fascinating watching the rhetoric coming up from the South. Look, for many of us, particularly those of us in a border state, we've actually had to finance and carry much of the cost of the federal government's failures. We want to see a solution. We want that border security, but we also want the rest of the immigration system to get fixed. How do you get the people in Washington to understand it's almost a holistic theory?
Yeah.
You can't fix one thing and leave the others hanging because you just move the problem to something else. Instead of coming across the border, you come across on visas and stay. So you got to fix everything.
Complicated stuff and a lot on this president's plate, including this visit from a high-ranking North Korean official today with Mike Pompeo. We're anticipating, we don't exactly know when or where that's going to take place, but he's expected, that North Korean official, in New York. What is your expectations for this particular meeting?
I'm hopeful. I had the blessing of spending this last weekend in South Korea, up in the DMZ, visiting our troops. You will be incredibly impressed how much more prepared we are today than even 2 years ago. And I think that preparedness has sanguined the North Koreans to understand we're serious. So there's this incredible optimism. But I will ask everyone, whether they be in the media or those of us in elected office, understand this is going to be an emotional roller coaster. There's decades and decades of mistrust. We got to sort of work through what we want from them, what they're willing to give us, and keep pushing and keep pushing, and just understand there's going to be highs and lows, and this may